Living unapologetically, your roadmap for sustained happiness and confidence. Embracing external challenges, standing firm amidst societal pressures, understanding societal norms. In 1957, the median age of first marriage for women in the United States was 20.3 years. By 2023, that number had climbed to 28.4 years. Yet the informal expectations at holiday dinners, professional networking events, and casual coffee catch-ups often haven't budged an inch. The cousin who asks when you're finally going to settle down speaks from a script written decades ago, one that equates adulthood with coupling and views prolonged singleness as a problem awaiting resolution. These expectations aren't random quirks of personality. They're inherited artifacts from economic and social structures that once made partnership a practical necessity rather than an emotional choice. For most of human history, marriage served as an economic unit. Women needed legal access to property and income. Men needed domestic labor and social respectability. The romantic ideal we now associate with partnership is a relatively recent invention, yet the expectation that everyone should pair off persists with surprising tenacity. When a 43-year-old woman mentions she's single at a work function, the response often carries an undertone of concern or curiosity that wouldn't surface if she mentioned living in an apartment rather than a house. The assumption runs deeper than politeness. Understanding where these norms originate helps strip away their false authority. The 1950s nuclear family model, for instance, represented an unusual historical moment rather than a timeless truth. It emerged from specific post-war economic conditions, government housing policies, and a brief period when a single income could support an entire household. That world no longer exists, yet its imagery saturates our collective imagination through television reruns, advertising, and inherited family expectations. Religious traditions have also embedded partnership as a moral expectation, framing marriage as a divine mandate or the natural endpoint of maturity. Even in increasingly secular societies, these frameworks linger as cultural residue, shaping judgments about who's living correctly and who's fallen short. What makes these norms particularly insidious is their invisibility. They operate as background assumptions rather than explicit arguments. Nobody hands you a rule book at 40 declaring that your worth depends on your relationship status, yet the message arrives through 1,000 small interactions. The sympathetic head tilt, the unsolicited setup attempt, the family gathering where seating arrangements assume pairs. These moments accumulate into a persistent pressure that feels personal but is actually structural. A collective inheritance that precedes your arrival and will persist long after you've stopped caring what anyone thinks. Recognizing these patterns doesn't immediately dissolve their influence, but it creates crucial distance. When you understand that the discomfort you feel at being single stems from inherited scripts rather than objective reality, you can begin evaluating those scripts on their merits. The question shifts from, "What's wrong with me?" to, "What's wrong with this expectation?" Reframing external criticism. Criticism aimed at your single status operates differently than most social feedback. It rarely arrives as direct attack. Instead, it appears wrapped in concern, curiosity, or helpful suggestion, which makes it harder to recognize and therefore harder to deflect. The colleague who says, "You're too picky," believes she's offering useful insight. The parent who forwards articles about frozen eggs thinks he's showing care. The friend who insists you'd be happier partnered genuinely cannot imagine an alternative. These comments don't feel like criticism to the people delivering them, which is precisely why they land with such peculiar force. Criticism about singleness actually reveals the speaker's own anxiety about legitimacy and choice. When someone questions your contentment, they're often defending their own life decisions against an alternative they find threatening. Your visible satisfaction as a single person at 43 creates cognitive dissonance for anyone who sacrificed autonomy, financial independence, or personal goals to maintain a partnership they're not entirely sure about. The criticism isn't really about you, it's about protecting a narrative they need to believe in. Understanding this distinction doesn't make the comments pleasant, but it does strip away their authority. You're not receiving objective assessment, you're witnessing someone's internal conflict projected outward. Reframing begins with separating observation from interpretation. Someone says, "Aren't you lonely?" What they've actually observed is that you live alone. The loneliness part is interpretation, imported from their own associations and fears. You can accept the observation while rejecting the interpretation entirely. "I live alone. Yes, I'm not lonely though. I'm quite content with my social life and my own company. This response doesn't argue or defend, it simply corrects the record. Most people won't push back because they weren't offering a researched conclusion in the first place, just an assumption they'd never examined. The same principle applies to more loaded comments. Don't you want children? Assumes that wanting children requires partnership, that biological timelines override all other considerations, and that your life choices are open for casual interrogation. Each assumption can be separated and addressed individually, though you're under no obligation to do so. Sometimes the most powerful reframe is internal, rather than spoken. When you hear that question, you can think, this person has confused their priorities with universal truth. You don't owe anyone a defense of choices that harm no one. Transforming criticism into self-affirmation means using these moments as opportunities to clarify your own values rather than absorb someone else's. Each awkward comment is a chance to ask yourself what you actually believe. Do you agree that partnership is inherently superior to singleness? Do you accept that your worth depends on romantic validation? Do you believe that conventional milestones matter more than personal fulfillment? The questions answer themselves once you've stripped away the inherited static. What remains is your life, as you've chosen to build it, accountable to your own standards rather than scripts written by people who will never live with the consequences of your decisions. Criticism loses its sting when you've done that foundational work. Not because you've developed thicker skin, but because you've stopped mistaking other people's discomfort for your own failing. Cultivating a supportive network. Supportive community doesn't arrive pre-assembled. You won't find a ready-made network of people who celebrate unconventional choices simply because you've decided to live differently. What you will find, though, are individuals scattered across your existing social landscape who recognize themselves in your decisions. People who've also opted out of prescribed timelines, or who respect autonomy enough to celebrate it in others. The absence of built-in community for single people over 40 creates real vulnerability. Coupled friends have institutional support, shared social calendars, legal protections, cultural scripts that normalize their priorities. When they cancel plans because their partner needs them, everyone understands. When you prioritize a solo trip or decline an invitation to protect your time, you're often explaining a choice that couples never have to justify. While research often indicates that single adults may maintain strong and diverse social networks, the lack of societal scripts and structural reinforcement for their choices can mean that cultivating and maintaining these connections requires more deliberate and intentional effort than for their partnered counterparts. DePaulo, 2017. This asymmetry compounds over years, creating invisible work that partnered people rarely notice. Building community as a single person means identifying the specific people who already demonstrate understanding through action, not just polite tolerance. Your college friend who texts to check in without asking when you'll date again. The coworker who invites you to events as a full participant rather than a charity case needing setup. The sibling who treats your priorities as seriously as they treat their own family obligations. These people exist in your life already. The work involves recognizing them and deepening those specific connections rather than trying to convert skeptics. Like-minded doesn't mean identical. You're not looking for other single people exclusively, though they may understand certain pressures intuitively. You're looking for people who've made deliberate choices about their own lives and therefore respect deliberateness in others. The friend who left corporate law to teach high school understands something about choosing meaning over convention. The neighbor who moved across the country at 50 for a fresh start understands courage. Shared values around autonomy and intentionality matter more than shared relationship status. Emotional support within these networks operates differently than it might in partnerships, which creates both challenges and advantages. You can't assume one person will handle all emotional labor, so you develop multiple channels. One friend is excellent during career stress. Another understands family complications. A third shares your recreational interests and provides pure enjoyment. This distribution requires more active maintenance than a single primary relationship, but it also means you're not trapped by one person's availability, mood, or capacity. When you've built a genuine network, support comes from multiple directions rather than depending on a single source. Nurturing internal strength, building and maintaining personal resilience. Cultivating emotional resilience. Emotional resilience isn't stoicism. It's not pretending criticism doesn't sting or manufacturing constant positivity. Resilience means experiencing the full range of emotional responses to your circumstances while maintaining confidence in your fundamental choices. When your mother asks yet again if you're dating anyone, resilience means feeling the irritation fully, expressing boundaries clearly, and returning to centeredness without questioning your entire life trajectory. This capacity develops through consistent practice with specific techniques, not vague intentions to stay positive. Mindfulness forms the foundation, not as spiritual pursuit, but as practical observation. When judgment arrives, whether external or internal, mindfulness creates a crucial pause between stimulus and response. Your colleague mentions her anniversary dinner. You notice the automatic thought, I'll never have that. Instead of spiraling, you observe the thought as a thought, not truth. You notice where it lives in your body, the tightness in your chest, the slight nausea. You name it: comparison, fear, societal conditioning. This observation doesn't eliminate discomfort, but prevents it from hijacking your afternoon. Emotional regulation builds on this foundation. Traditional advice suggests suppressing difficult emotions, but studies, like those by psychologist James Gross, indicate that actively trying to push emotions away can intensify them and lead to greater emotional distress over time. Gross, 2001. Regulation means experiencing emotions without letting them dictate behavior. When loneliness surfaces on a Sunday evening, you don't immediately download dating apps or call your ex or decide your choices were mistakes. You recognize loneliness as a temporary state triggered by specific circumstances: quietness after a busy week, Instagram posts of family gatherings, fatigue lowering your usual resilience. You might journal about it, call a friend, take a walk, or simply let it exist without amplifying it through catastrophic interpretation. Nurturing a positive mindset differs entirely from toxic positivity. You're not denying legitimate challenges or pretending everything is wonderful. You're actively noticing what's actually working. This requires intentionality because human brains evolved to prioritize threats, meaning difficulties register more intensely than satisfactions. Without conscious effort, you'll remember the awkward moment at the party, not the meaningful conversation that followed. Keep a specific catalog: the morning coffee ritual you genuinely enjoy, the project you completed without compromise, the spontaneous Tuesday evening exactly as you wanted it. These aren't consolation prizes for missing partnership. They're the actual substance of your chosen life. Daily practices anchor these concepts. 5 minutes of morning meditation creates baseline calm before demands accumulate. Evening reflection: 3 specific moments of satisfaction, 1 challenge, and how you handled it. Builds awareness of your actual capacity rather than imagined inadequacy. When you notice rumination starting, interrupt it physically. Stretch, change rooms, text someone about something unrelated. These small actions compound into something substantial over weeks and months. The goal isn't eliminating emotional responses to social pressure or occasional loneliness. Those responses are human and reasonable given persistent cultural messaging. Resilience means recovering your equilibrium faster each time, returning to confidence in your choices without extended detours through self-doubt. It means recognizing that Tuesday morning contentment and Friday evening satisfaction constitute real happiness, not inferior substitutes for a different life you're supposed to want. Over time, these practices don't just help you cope with your choice. They confirm you made the right one. Strengthening mental fortitude. Carol, a public relations director in Seattle, described a specific Tuesday in March 2019 that crystallized years of therapeutic work on mental boundaries. Her sister called at noon, the 4th call that week, asking if Carol had reconsidered joining a singles group at her church. Carol had repeatedly explained her position. She wasn't looking to change her relationship status, didn't view singleness as a problem, and found the suggestion patronizing. Yet her sister persisted, repackaging the same advice with increasing urgency. What happened next demonstrated practiced mental discipline. Carol noticed her habitual response pattern forming: defensiveness, then over-explanation, then guilt for setting boundaries, culminating in capitulation disguised as compromise. Instead, she deployed what her therapist called the boundary statement without justification. "I've made my decision about this. I won't discuss it further." When her sister pushed, "I'm just trying to help," Carol repeated the exact phrase, then ended the call. The conversation lasted 90 seconds. The aftermath proved harder than setting the boundary. Carol's mind immediately generated catastrophic narratives. Her sister would tell their mother she was cold and ungrateful. Family relationships would fracture. She'd end up truly isolated. These thoughts arrived with physiological responses: racing heart, shallow breathing, the urge to call back and smooth things over. She recognized this pattern from months of similar incidents. Her boundary wasn't the problem. Her tolerance for others' discomfort with her boundary was. Mental fortitude meant sitting with her sister's disappointment without absorbing responsibility for it. Extensive research indicates that rumination, repetitive negative thinking, significantly predicts the onset, severity, and duration of depressive episodes. Nolan Hoeksema et al., 2008. What distinguishes adaptive reflection from destructive rumination is specificity and forward movement. Carol's therapist had taught her to notice when thinking became circular. Was she generating new information or rehearsing the same fears? Was she problem-solving or punishing herself? When Carol caught herself replaying the conversation for the sixth time, she physically interrupted the pattern. She wrote 3 sentences in her phone. I set a clear boundary. My sister's discomfort belongs to her. I don't owe endless explanation for living according to my values. Then she deleted the note. Its function was interruption, not preservation. She went for a run. 6 weeks later, her sister invited her to dinner without mentioning dating, church groups, or Carol's choices at all. The boundary had recalibrated the relationship. Carol's mental discipline, the capacity to maintain her position despite internal catastrophizing and external pressure, had created space for a healthier dynamic. Her sister's acceptance wasn't the victory. Carol's refusal to negotiate her reality was. Mental fortitude doesn't prevent difficult conversations or uncomfortable emotions. It prevents those difficulties from eroding the foundations you've deliberately built. Building a supportive environment. Building resilience isn't just mindset work. It requires physical infrastructure, the spaces you inhabit, the people you regularly encounter, and the resources you access all exert continuous pressure on your capacity to maintain internal strength. Without deliberate environmental design, you're attempting psychological fortitude while standing in quicksand. Start with your living space, which functions as either energy drain or restoration hub. One professional living in a city realized their apartment had become a staging area rather than a home. They stored camping gear in their living room in case friends wanted to go, kept the dining table piled with work documents because they might need them, and maintained a guest room for visits that happened twice yearly. Their space reflected hypothetical scenarios instead of actual life. Utah State University Extension, 2022. A misalignment that contributed to constant low-grade stress. They cleared the dining table permanently, converting it into a place for daily breakfast and reading. The guest room became a library with a comfortable daybed. Camping gear went to a storage unit shared with neighbors. These weren't merely aesthetic choices, they were environmental alignment with their reality. Their apartment stopped apologizing for their singleness and started supporting it. El Camino Health, 2023. Physical organization creates mental relief by reducing the number of daily decisions required. Designate specific locations for essential items: keys, wallet, phone charger, important documents. This sounds trivial until you're rushing to a doctor's appointment while searching for insurance cards you put somewhere safe. Decision fatigue erodes resilience incrementally, making small inefficiencies worth eliminating. When your environment works with you instead of against you, you preserve energy for challenges that actually matter. Your social environment requires equal scrutiny. Identify which relationships consistently deplete you and which restore you. One person tracked their emotional state after social interactions for a month and noticed a pattern. Dinner with a close friend left them energized, while monthly drinks with former colleagues produced anxiety that lasted for days. This colleague group often spent gatherings discussing relationship drama and making jokes about their freedom. The person had initially assumed these friendships were obligatory. Psychiatry.org, 2020. They simply stopped attending. 2 people texted asking if everything was okay. The person responded honestly. The dynamic didn't work for them anymore. That was the entire conversation. The friendship ended not through confrontation, but through deliberate withdrawal of participation. They redirected that time toward the energizing friend and a hiking group they'd been too busy to join consistently. Community resources provide resilience infrastructure beyond individual relationships. Libraries offer free meeting spaces, classes, and events. Recreation centers provide structured activities without relationship status assumptions. Volunteer organizations create purpose-driven connection. These aren't fallback options for people lacking better alternatives. They're deliberately diverse environments that prevent isolation within narrow social circles. Financial advisors, therapists, and legal professionals who understand single adult realities become essential team members. Interview potential advisors explicitly about their experience with unmarried clients. Ask specific questions. How do you approach estate planning for single people? What assumptions do you make about household income? Their answers reveal whether they'll support your choices or subtly undermine them. Your environment should require less justification from you, not more. Creating a vision for your single life, goals and growth for the future. Defining personal success. Start with a blank page and 30 uninterrupted minutes. Right at the top, what I want my life to look like in 3 years. Not what your family wants, not what you think you should want. What genuinely appeals to you when no one's watching. Write quickly without editing. Let contradictions exist. You might want solitude and connection, adventure and routine. These aren't problems to solve. They're tensions that reveal the full complexity of who you are. Someone might write, travel to Portugal and never move again on the same page. Both can be true. One leads to a trip, the other to renewing a lease you love. Notice when desires arrive with justifications attached. If volunteer at animal shelter is immediately followed by because I should give back, pause. That qualifier, because I should, signals external pressure, not authentic desire. Cross out everything after because. What remains is yours. What you erased belongs to someone else's vision of your life. Some items on your page will feel light, almost effortless to imagine. Others will carry weight, importance, a sense of yes, this matters. Circle the ones that quicken your pulse slightly. These aren't necessarily the biggest or most impressive goals. They're the ones that feel true when you read them back. This exercise isn't about crafting a perfect plan. It's about articulating what success actually means to you, stripped of comparison and expectation. Your vision might include things others find baffling or unambitious. That's the point. A life built on your values, not borrowed ones, is the foundation of sustained happiness. Everything that follows, the goals, the strategies, the daily choices, flows from this clarity about what you genuinely want. Setting achievable goals, taking that vision and transforming it into reality, doesn't require a sophisticated productivity system. It requires breaking aspirations into steps small enough that you can't fail. Not metaphorically small, actually small. If your vision includes get financially secure, that's not a goal. It's a category containing dozens of potential actions. What does secure actually mean for you? 3 months of expenses saved, no credit card debt, a will that reflects your choices? Then make it smaller. Save 3 months of expenses becomes transfer $200 to savings this Friday. That's a goal. It has a deadline, a specific action, and a binary outcome. Meaningful progress happens in increments that feel almost trivial while you're doing them. Someone aiming to improve physical fitness might feel overwhelmed by elaborate workout plans. Instead, applying principles from behavior scientist B.J. Fogg's Tiny Habits method, they might redefine the goal to simply do 2 push-ups after brushing my teeth every morning. The first few days, it might feel inconsequential. However, consistently completing this tiny action builds momentum and a sense of accomplishment, paving the way for gradual increases or additional habits. This tiny, measurable step, though seemingly minor, is the foundation for lasting change. Fogg, 2019. Most goal-setting advice emphasizes ambition and stretch targets. For people rebuilding confidence in their choices, the opposite approach works better. Set goals so achievable that completion is nearly guaranteed, then stack them. Momentum matters more than magnitude. Completing 3 small goals generates more forward motion than abandoning one large goal halfway through, which primarily generates evidence that you can't follow through. Write down 3 goals for the next month, not aspirational future self goals. 3 things that would tangibly improve your actual life if completed. Then cut each into the smallest possible first action. Learn Italian becomes download language app and complete lesson 1. Improve health becomes walk 15 minutes after dinner, Monday and Wednesday. Expand social circle becomes text one person to schedule coffee. Obstacles will surface immediately, and they're rarely what you expect. The problem usually isn't capability or time. It's the emotional weight attached to the goal. If you keep postponing that first Italian lesson, it's not about scheduling. It's likely about what learning Italian represents. A solo trip you're not sure you deserve, evidence you're building a life without a partner, or fear that you'll start and quit like you have before. Write it down. The obstacle isn't laziness. It's unexamined resistance that deserves acknowledgement. Once named, it loses some power. Track completion, not perfection. A simple notebook works. Date, goal, done, or not done. No explanations required. This isn't about shame, it's about creating evidence that you follow through. After a month, you'll have data instead of feelings. Maybe you completed 2 of 3 goals weekly. That's not failure, it's a baseline. Next month, you know what's realistic. Goals serve your vision, not the other way around. If a goal consistently feels like obligation rather than movement towards something you want, drop it. Your vision might be evolving, or the goal might have been borrowed ambition all along. Progress means moving toward your version of a good life, even if that progress looks nothing like anyone else's trajectory. Embracing lifelong growth. Growth isn't a project with an endpoint, it's the orientation you bring to daily life. The choice to remain open rather than fixed, curious rather than certain, after establishing your vision and building the small habits that move you toward it. What remains is simpler and harder, refusing to calcify around any single version of yourself. Adaptability matters because your life at 42 won't mirror your life at 47. And the vision you crafted with clarity today might need substantial revision in 18 months. Not because you got it wrong, but because you evolved. Someone who envisioned robust independence through solo travel might discover, after 6 trips, that what actually energizes them is building something in their community. The travel wasn't wasted. It generated the insight. But clinging to, I'm someone who travels solo, when that identity no longer fits, creates unnecessary friction. Lifelong learning functions as a hedge against obsolescence, both professional and personal. This doesn't require formal education, though it might. It means maintaining genuine curiosity about things you don't yet understand. A 2021 survey by Gallup and Amazon revealed that 48% of U.S. workers would switch to a new occupation if they could get the necessary training, underscoring the drive for professional adaptation and skill acquisition. Beyond career, individuals often pursue practical skills, basic car maintenance, cooking techniques, even digital literacy, to gain independence and confidence in managing their solo lives. The mechanism here is straightforward. Learning creates neural pathways that keep your mind flexible. It also prevents the creeping insularity that can accompany single life if you're not deliberate. When you stop learning, you start repeating. When you start repeating, your world contracts. Staying open to new experiences requires intentionality. It's easy to settle into comfortable routines, the same coffee shop, the same weekend activities, the same social circle. These routines provide stability, but without periodic disruption, they can become prisons of predictability. Try this. Commit to one unfamiliar experience each quarter. Take a class in something that intimidates you slightly. Attend an event where you won't know anyone. Travel to a place you've never considered. The specific activity matters less than the practice of deliberately choosing discomfort over familiarity, expansion over contraction. Personal evolution isn't betrayal of your earlier self. It's honoring the fact that you're alive and responsive to life. The vision you create today should be guiding, not binding. Hold it lightly enough that you can set it down when something truer emerges. Conclusion. When you first picked up Single and Free? After 40, perhaps a quiet question lingered in your mind, a subtle whisper of doubt against a backdrop of societal expectations. Maybe you felt the familiar tug of an unspoken pressure, the kind that suggests a life uncoupled after 40 is somehow incomplete, a path less chosen, or even a path of compromise. The world, in its often unthinking way, paints pictures of happiness that rarely include a solo figure, especially as the decades accumulate. You might have been searching for an answer, a validation that your perfectly legitimate choice to remain single wasn't a flaw, but a different kind of strength. You came seeking clarity, perhaps a shield against the casual comments or the well-meaning but misguided pity. You wanted to understand not just why you felt happy and whole on your own, but why the world sometimes struggled to see it. That initial uncertainty, that sense of being an outlier in a paired-up society, is a deeply human experience. Many of us have felt it. this subtle internal discord between our authentic selves and the narratives imposed upon us. Now, as you reach this final chapter, the landscape looks remarkably different, doesn't it? That quiet question has, I hope, transformed into a resounding affirmation. The doubts have begun to dissipate, replaced by a grounded confidence. We've walked through the corridors of traditional norms, identified the myths that bind us, and ultimately celebrated the profound autonomy that comes with a conscious choice for singleness. You've not only seen that your path is legitimate, but you've begun to chart it with a newfound sense of purpose and pride. This isn't about merely coping, it's about claiming your joy, defining your success, and understanding that your happiness, unattached and unapologetic, is every bit as real and vibrant as any other. This journey has been one of recognizing the inherent value in your independence, embracing a perspective where happiness isn't contingent on external validation or traditional milestones. We've acknowledged the sometimes uncomfortable reality of societal pressures, but more importantly, we've armed you with the insights to navigate them with grace and conviction. Your decision to explore these truths signals a readiness to live a life truly on your own terms, not in spite of being single, but precisely because of it. You've dared to question, to reflect, and to ultimately reinforce the truth that your singular path is a powerful and fulfilling one. We've unpacked the intricate layers of what it means to be single and thriving after 40. We started by dismantling the pervasive myth that singleness is a default state or a temporary holding pattern, firmly establishing it as a conscious, legitimate choice. We explored how societal traditions and relentless media portrayals often perpetuate a narrow definition of happiness, one that can make a solo journey feel isolated. You've learned to recognize the subtle psychological underpinnings that drive the craving for external approval, arming you with the power to disengage from those narratives that don't serve your truth. We then pivoted from understanding the external pressures to cultivating a rich internal world. This meant diving deep into the practice of self-love and self-compassion, recognizing that true happiness blooms from within, irrespective of relationship status. We discovered that building a genuinely joyful single life is less about grand gestures and more about consistent, small acts of self-kindness, mindful reflection, and intentional pursuit of personal passions. This journey has shown us that your worth isn't defined by a partner, but by the intrinsic value you hold and the vibrant life you actively construct. A cornerstone of this empowered existence, as we explored in depth, is financial independence. We clarified that security isn't just about having money, it's about the freedom, peace of mind, and the robust foundation it provides for a life lived on your own terms. Budgeting, saving, investing, and even income enhancement. These aren't merely chores, but essential tools in your toolkit for self-sufficiency. Beyond finances, we address the fundamental human need for connection, demonstrating that a single life is rich with possibilities for meaningful relationships. We've redefined family and community, emphasizing the strength found in nurturing existing friendships, forging new bonds, and engaging actively with the world around you, far beyond the confines of traditional romantic ties. Finally, we culminated our exploration by focusing on discovering and living your unique purpose, understanding that a single life offers unparalleled autonomy to align your passions, values, and goals with your everyday reality. This isn't a passive waiting game, it's an active construction of a life so authentically yours that it radiates confidence and joy. From identifying your core passions to building a compelling vision for your future, you've gathered the insights and strategies to live unapologetically, standing firm amidst external challenges and nurturing an unwavering internal strength. The collective wisdom of these pages has underscored one powerful truth: your happiness is not merely possible, but within your direct control. Allow yourself to inhabit a future a year from now, perhaps even 5, where you live with an unshakable sense of inner peace and profound contentment. You wake each morning, not with a vague sense of yearning or the subtle sting of comparison, but with a deep, quiet gratitude for the day ahead, entirely shaped by your choices. Your home isn't just a place where you reside, it's a sanctuary, meticulously crafted to reflect your tastes, your passions, and your unique rhythm. There's a freedom in knowing every decision, from the art on your walls to the schedule in your planner, is an authentic expression of you. Reflect on how your interactions with the world will shift. You stand taller, speak with clearer conviction, and move with an unburdened spirit. The casual question about your relationship status no longer causes a flicker of discomfort because you possess a rock solid understanding of your worth, independent of any external validation. Instead of deflecting or explaining, you might simply smile, perhaps even share a glimpse of the rich tapestry of your life, the fulfilling career, the vibrant friendships, the passion project that ignites your soul. Others will sense this intrinsic happiness, this genuine self-possession, and their perspectives might just shift in response. Your days will unfold differently. Your calendar isn't dictated by compromise or negotiation, it's a testament to your values. Perhaps you're embarking on that solo trip you've always dreamed of, exploring ancient ruins or scaling mountain peaks, purely for the joy of discovery. Or maybe you're dedicating evenings to a creative pursuit that completely absorbs you, a skill you're passionately honing. Perhaps you're deeply engaged in community work, contributing your unique talents to a cause that truly matters to you, surrounded by kindred spirits who share your vision. Your social circle is expansive and diverse, a mosaic of deep friendships, supportive family ties, and vibrant community connections. Each relationship nurtured and celebrated for its own sake, not as a stand-in for romance. A profound sense of financial security will anchor your choices. Your future is not a source of anxiety, but a wellspring of security and further possibility. You've built a robust foundation, not just for independence, but for expansive living. That emergency fund provides calm, those investments promise growth, and your smart planning allows for both present enjoyment and future adventure. The weight of what if has been replaced by the lightness of I can. This isn't just about surviving alone, it's about flourishing beyond measure. This is a life where solitude is a choice, not a sentence. Where freedom isn't an absence, but a presence of boundless opportunity. You are the architect of this incredible existence, equipped with the blueprints and the confidence to build it precisely as you desire. Your inherent value shines brightly, illuminating a path of joy, meaning, and unapologetic self-actualization. The insights you've gained are powerful, but their true strength lies in their application. Now is the moment to transform understanding into undeniable action, to bridge the gap between reflection and tangible results. Don't let this newfound clarity gather dust. Put it to work right away. Your first immediate action: dedicate 20 minutes to a self-compassion practice from Chapter 3. Find a quiet space, set a timer, and consciously bring to mind any lingering doubts or critical self-talk you might still harbor about your single status. Instead of pushing these thoughts away, simply acknowledge them with kindness, as you would a struggling friend. Following this, engage with a strategy from Chapter 4. Review your financial independence goals and commit to one micro-action. Perhaps it's setting up an automatic transfer of just $10 into your emergency fund, or scheduling that long overdue review of your monthly budget. Open your banking app or calendar right now and make that commitment. It's not about perfection, it's about establishing the momentum, solidifying the habit of actively managing your well-being, both emotionally and financially. These small, consistent steps are the bedrock of the unapologetically free life you are building. Consider implementing a strategy from Chapter 5. Reach out to one valued friend or family member today. Send a text, make a call, or schedule a coffee date. Reaffirm that connection, not out of obligation, but out of genuine appreciation for the diverse support system you're cultivating. Remind yourself that a rich, connected life doesn't solely hinge on one type of relationship. It flourishes within the entire ecosystem of meaningful bonds you intentionally foster. This simple act reinforces the truth that your happiness is profoundly enriched by the community you actively build around you. Take another tangible step, directly from Chapter 6. Identify one small way to integrate a core passion into your routine this week. If you love painting, carve out an hour. If you enjoy reading, commit to 20 minutes before bed. This isn't about fitting into anyone else's schedule or seeking external approval. It's about honoring your authentic self and nurturing the unique joys that define your purpose. By choosing to act on these strategies immediately, you are sending a clear signal to yourself. This isn't just theory. This is my life, and I am actively shaping it. Each choice, each intentional moment, is a brick in the foundation of your unshakable happiness. Remember, the path to living single and free isn't a race to some flawless finish line. There will be days when the old narratives try to creep back in, moments when a societal expectation might sting, or a friend's well-meaning comment lands a little off. And that's absolutely okay. The goal here isn't to achieve some unattainable state of perpetual bliss or to become immune to the world around you. Instead, it's about embracing progress over perfection, recognizing that every step, every conscious decision to affirm your choice is a victory in itself. You don't need to overhaul your entire life in one dramatic sweep. You already possess the profound understanding and practical tools needed to navigate these moments with grace and strength. The critical insights into societal norms, the strategies for building self-love, the roadmap for financial security, and the guidance for cultivating deep connections. They are all within you now. You have learned to identify your core passions and to chart a course aligned with your deepest purpose. This isn't about acquiring new external resources. It's about accessing the wisdom and resilience you've cultivated through these pages and, more importantly, through your own lived experience. Trust in the foundation you've built, brick by intentional brick. Your journey is uniquely yours, and its value isn't diminished by occasional stumbles, but rather defined by your consistent commitment to your own happiness and autonomy. You're not striving for a life that conforms to someone else's ideal. You are sculpting a life that perfectly fits you. Every decision you make that aligns with your values, every boundary you set, every moment of self-care you prioritize reinforces your strength. This is your personal revolution, unfolding one conscious choice at a time. The confidence you've gained isn't a fragile thing. It's a deep, abiding knowing that your chosen path is valid, rich, and worthy of celebration. You are equipped to face any lingering doubts, internal or external, with a quiet strength born of conviction. Lean into your own intuition, trust your capacity for joy, and recognize that the power to shape your happiness has always resided within you. You are not alone on this journey. You are simply leading it with the profound understanding that your self-defined freedom is your greatest asset. Ultimately, being single and free after 40 isn't merely about an absence of a partner. It is about the profound presence of self. It's about recognizing that your life, vibrant and whole, is a masterpiece of your own making, requiring no external validation to shine. It's about understanding that happiness isn't a destination reached via a conventional path, but a journey woven into the fabric of your daily choices, your connections, and your deepest purpose. Your story, unwritten by societal expectations, is a testament to courage, resilience, and an unwavering commitment to your authentic joy. You are not waiting for life to begin. You are fully and powerfully living it right now. This is your time to be unapologetically you, to savor every freedom, to explore every passion, and to cultivate every connection that nourishes your soul. Embrace your singularity not as a label, but as a lens through which to experience a life of boundless possibility. May your days be filled with purpose, your heart with joy, and your spirit with the unyielding conviction that your chosen path is not just legitimate, but profoundly beautiful. Step forward with confidence, knowing your happiness is entirely, wonderfully yours.